It's been a decade since a humble Tunisian street vendor gave birth to a revolution, lighting himself on fire in protest of government corruption, poverty, and a lack of basic human rights.
This revolution will succeed.
His sacrifice sparking demonstrations that quickly spread across the Arab world, toppling governments in Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, and Yemen, and triggering deadly civil wars that led to a global humanitarian crisis that's still playing out today.
They called for bread, freedom, and social justice.
Stephen Cook with the Council on Foreign Relations is an expert on the region.
If you think about those three things, what people were really asking for was for dignity. And living in these societies where there is corruption, crony capitalism, an arrogance of power, police brutality, were things that people wanted to essentially throw off and build a more just and open society.
Widespread unemployment, especially among young people, pushed activists to rally in the streets and to use social media to spread the word of their discontent.
It was interesting to see how activists and protesters used social media. It's important, though, to recognize that social media was not the beginning and the end of it. These governments had the ability to shut down the internet, and activists then subsequently organized in some old-fashioned ways through the mosque, through word of mouth, through neighborhood, and continued to turn out big crowds in these now very famous public squares.
But 10 years in, unfulfilled promises and voids in leadership have taken their toll.
None of them, save perhaps Tunisia, really did make a transition to more open and democratic societies. The results have been either civil wars or more authoritarianism.
And to the rise of terrorist groups like ISIS, who brutally seized power in parts of Iraq, Libya, and Syria, where Ed Clancy, with Aid to the Church in Need, says the aftermath has been devastating.
Syria has had essentially 10 years of civil war that have come from the Arab Spring. So it's hard to say that many good things have come. Yemen is even worse in that Yemen is really a disaster. It's an economic and political disaster. The people are starving. There's a lot of problems and a lot of violence.
In Iraq, violent extremists smashed centuries of priceless artifacts that bear witness to a history of cohesion among Muslims and Christians, all in an attempt to destroy Iraq's Christian identity.
Islam and Christianity have existed side by side in Iraq and in the region for many generations. One of the terrible things that ISIS did or does is they try to remove or expunge all remnants of history or cultural significance of the people or their opponents.
But the faithful of Karakash in the Nineveh Plains, the heart of Iraq's dwindling Christian community, could not be extinguished. Their beloved cathedral restored after it was nearly wiped out by ISIS, with help from Aid to the Church in Need.
The cathedral was rebuilt, and now it's the pride and joy of the Nineveh Plains. They stand as points of particular contact for the community, but also a source of pride and resonance that the people say when there's a church, they know they can remain.
As Pope Francis spreads his message of unity, hope, and tolerance in Iraq, the significance of his visit has the world watching.
You can't help but think that the Pope's visit will shine a light on, the tenets of Christianity.
Well, it's extraordinary that the pontiff is going to Iraq. I think that it is an important visit for not just Iraqi Christians, but for all Iraqis of goodwill who would like to pull their country back from the brink of collapse.
If you're watching Currents News on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button and click on the bell to get updates to all of our newest content, because we are putting your faith in the news.